today I covered the topic of the term pagan being a pejorative. But there's other kind of labels, so to speak, that are controversial within the pagan community. One of them is, identifying with the word witch. A lot of people have said, and they quote people like Ron Hutton, who said in his book Triumph of the Moon, that the old religions did not call those magic practitioners witches. They were actually called cunning folk. In a lot of traditions, witches were actually still considered to be evil, even in the old religion. And that could be true, especially for Northern Europe. But what we must remember is that there's very few traditions today that people practice, for example, Wicca, which is the largest witchcraft tradition practice, that are true to these old religions in the first place. They are more like modern witchcraft traditions. If you want to recreate completely the old religion, then maybe you should call yourself Cunning One or something of the sort instead of calling yourself a witch. But if you take aspects from several different religious sources, like witches did, then calling oneself a witch is understood. There's two kind of definitions of the word witch. One person will say that the word witch comes from the word wicker, which means to bend, and the other is that the word witch comes from the word wise one, or wicha, which means wise one. There's truth in both of those, although I tend to lean more towards the latter. And if you're calling yourself a witch in the term of meaning wise one, I don't see a problem with using that definition if that's what you identify with. Witchcraft is being wise to the way the world works and, using that knowledge to your advantage. That's the craft of the wise. I don't have a problem with the word witch. I think that it's not exclusive to any tradition. If you look in a good witchcraft book, you can see that there are witches from just about any religious tradition and non-religious traditions as well. And so, for example, Wicca does not have a claim on the word witch. Neither does any other tradition, for that matter. It's really about taking terms and modernizing them and realizing that we don't live in the past anymore. We live in the here and now and can take those terms and use them as we will to create our new definition, which is kind of what we did with the word pagan too, isn't it? I mean, it used to be a pejorative, and for some people it still is. For most of the pagan community, the term pagan is a term within the subculture that we use to identify with. I consider myself to be a pagan and a witch. For one, my tradition now is mostly Greek, and the Greeks had no problem with the word witch. Secondly, I consider it to be kind of like a reclaiming. During the Middle Ages, there was so much of propaganda spread by the church. It's time that we took those terms and made people realize that witches are not bad people. And if we take that term, that most controversial term, and turn it around to be something good, then people can't use it against us. So I think that's the most important thing, that we take these terms and we make them household. And if we do that, then we're only bettering our community. That's why being good representatives is such a good thing. Anyway, blessed be.